Well, welcome to the second day of SOCAP. It's our biggest and I think our best conferences ever. So I'm going to end my talk by talking about a way you can make above market returns risk-free, investing in justice in your city, and making sure it doesn't turn out like Baltimore and Ferguson. So the choice is going to be yours. Make more or make less money, do good or not do good. You pick the two you like, risk-free. But to get there, I need to briefly tell you the origin story of SOCAP and my path to get there and the path I'm on now. So it begins in Bill Gates' office, and it begins in the Hong Kong airport. Well, we were trying to raise our first impact venture fund. A fair trade coffee company we wanted to invest in went in to pitch Bill Gates. Gates heard the concept, stood up, did not want to hear another word. He said, look, I have two pockets. I have one I want to put all the money in the world in. I have another smaller pocket I want to put some money in to do good. If you say there's a space between giving and investing, I don't want to be around that idea, and you have to leave now. And this was a guy he knew, but he didn't want to hear any more about it. Of course, cases change and their foundation has changed. So we switched to the Hong Kong airport, the next part of the origin story. There were two groups putting on events trying to catalyze this thing we did not yet call impact investing. And they weren't talking to each other, and they were using different terms, and they were fighting about words. So I said, I'll build a conversation map to explain what each side is saying to each other. And they said, great. And then they said, well, actually, we only have 10 minutes. And then in the Hong Kong airport, I got an email that said there was no time for that. And I said, don't you want to hear what the people who are not in the room are saying? And no, the guy said, we think we have the right people in the room. Well, a major light bulb went off. Everybody was doing everything spectacularly wrong. And so we would not try to figure out how to get the language into the siloed rooms. We'd build an event between the silos, the place between the event. And people would come out of their silos to the event and discover valuable strangers who used to, different words, who could become unlikely allies. For a long time, nobody got it. I got reminded of that yesterday. David, I went around for about a year and a half, nobody got it. David Sands, who runs a large impact investment vehicle, who's been here half a dozen times, reminded me yesterday that he was one of the very first who told me I was wrong and I was the wrong guy. Okay. No, anyway, it worked. You're here. But about 3 years on, I was pretty happy. People were coming. Look at the people we had in the room. And then Conda Mason, the founder of Impact Hub Oakland, who's right there, asked me this question, like, you know, this was her first year at SOCAP, and she said, why are there more Africans here than African Americans? And then why are impact investors willing to invest in Africans and not African Americans? There were a lot of people not in the room. I had not noticed it. Then I started thinking about it. At the same time, I realized venture capital wasn't the answer. You know, we had tried to build SOCAP to validate venture capital as an asset class somewhere between philanthropy and traditional community investing and things. And venture capital works outside of Silicon Valley, but it needs two things. You need a pipeline of companies who are ready for equity, and you need a circle of angels. And in a whole lot of places, that's not there. So I started looking at local economies and realizing that they're the key to taking back the economy from Wall Street to Main Street and making us resilient in the face of climate change. So my first two questions merged. What can we do to create healthy local economies, and who are those economies not working for? Who's not in the room when you think about healthy local economies? Well, we're planning a big local economy conference next spring in DC or Baltimore, and we struck some key partnerships yesterday that we can't announce today, but I think it's going to be pretty cool, and we're going to get real about how to create inclusive community wealth, bringing in all different kinds of people. As I was looking at this problem of you know, why are people not investing in African Americans, I ran into Jessica Norwood, who you heard yesterday, and there she is, right. And she pointed out the key missing piece, I think, the leverage point for system change. It's the friends and family gap. 30% of venture-backed startups and most other startups start with friends and family around. It's huge. It's about $90 billion a year, and it's the crazy creative stage that then a real business can come from. The problem is the African-American wealth gap. The average black family has $11,000 in assets. The average white family has $144,000. So you're not going to get the $10,000 to $15,000 you need to launch if mom and them have 11. It's the rich uncle gap. She and I started talking to people working with those entrepreneurs that we're trying to target, working in marginalized communities, and they helped us figure out the kind of money needed. It needs to be low interest and act like equity for a couple of years. we work with Self-Help Federal Credit Union to build us a certificate of deposit with a loan loss reserve that will be managed by Impact Hub Oakland, with the entrepreneurs coming from proven accelerators, including up to a business boot camp there with Ronnie Kroger and some others, Kiva graduates and that kind of thing. So this is going to be an above-market, risk-free CD, $500, with a loan loss reserve offered, and it'll be by Self-Help Federal Credit Union. We have a large institutional donor who's verbally committed to the first $100,000 of the loan loss reserve. And we made a $100,000 sale yesterday on our first sales call to someone we met here that I'd contacted by email. So I think it's going to be pretty easy, really. The sale, again, is really pretty easy. Do you want to make more money and do good risk-free, or do you want to make less money and not do good and help create entrepreneurship as a path to community wealth in neighborhoods where people aren't building businesses but can? You can give to the loan loss reserve so we can expand more startups, or you can buy this certificate deposit. Annie McShuris of Self-Help is right down here. Stand up, Annie. We can take deposits today. We can take your name for the gifts because we got to do the back office things, and there's some other folks, Brian Jones from Self-Help. We have to take your name and get back to you on the donation. But we have a goal of, we've raised $200,000 this week, and we have a goal to get 300 on both sides this week. And it's up to you if you want to, once we prove the model, figure out the loan loss curve, we want to replicate it, and we have several places that are eager and ready to do it. They have the right kind of accelerator, the right kind of entrepreneurs, and they don't have this kind of capital. It's really crazy. None of the CDFIs and things go down to this level. They do business loans. This is a personal loan for a business purpose, and it's a crazy gap. So the choice is yours. Do you want to make more money, risk-free, and do good, or do you want to make less money and not do good? Again, it's up to you. Thank you for being with us today, and I think we're going to talk about who's not in the room the rest of the morning. But thank you for coming to SOCAP.
All right. So next up, I'm excited to bring to the stage Ashara Ekundayo, who is the co-founder of Impact Hub Oakland and also their creative director. She's applied her creative skills today to bring us 3 wonderful talks that help bring to life this idea of who's telling the story, whose narrative are we listening to. So please give a warm welcome to Ashara.
Oh, good morning, everyone. I feel a little overwhelmed with mics, so I'm going to maybe not use the podium today. I have had this wonderful opportunity over the last few years of attending SOCAP, of being able to have these really great, tiny, sparkly conversations with innovators and creatives. A couple of years ago, we had an impromptu meetup at lunchtime where I invited people to out themselves as creatives. And I thought, okay, maybe 4 or 5 people will show up, and about 60 people showed up. And so for the past year and a half, we've been wondering how to get the conversation of creative entrepreneurship and the creative class, the energy of art and culture and creative art practice onto the main stage, but not only on one day, but spread throughout the conversation for the next several days. This is a picture of me with my mother and my father before I knew there was anything called art. And so one of the things that I could get them to agree on, maybe 1 or 2 things, because they got divorced when I was 4, was the idea of following your heart, of doing what you want to do and stepping into your whatever creative bliss it may be. So I have a father who is a visual artist, and I've never known him to have a job other than the job of being beautiful in community and making sure that it was more beautiful than it was when he got there. And my mother, who was very much kind of straight-laced, but very involved and very committed to making sure that my sister and I were exposed to as many different kinds of creative processes as possible and lessons. And, her whole creative art practice was very alive and fluid at the time. And if you didn't follow your heart, you would end up in this state of dis-ease, of unhappiness. And you might be holding up a sign that says, I'm happy, but in your heart, you're not. But we live in this society and this community that says, I have to be happy all of the time. And so the question has been, who defines the culture for me? Who gets to tell the story? And so my father, being the visual artist, and he lived in New York when I was a child, so I spent my summers in Manhattan, would take us to the museums and the galleries, to the theater, to the ballet, all kinds of wonderful opportunities. And I remember one day asking him, we were at the Museum of Natural History. I said, who is it that gets to decide what art is on the wall? And he said, oh, that person is the curator. And I said, duly noted. That's who I want to be when I grow up. The person who gets to tell the story, the person who gets to define what is real, what is valuable. And so we talk about in communities as organizers, as artivists, what is valuable and who defines wealth and how do we build that. Huey Newton, who was the co-founder of the Black Panther Party, said, in order to exist, we must survive. This is a longer quote. You might have time to read it. But it talks about the fact that we are in a situation now, in a situation in our societies where genocide is rampant, where terror is rampant, and that we have to figure out ways to survive until the revolution comes. So here we are in the Bay Area, in my home in Oakland, California, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Black Panther Party this year. And so lots of conversations are coming to the forefront. But one of the things that we know, a lesson that was taught and continues to carry through the whole legacy and the tradition of Oakland, is that art is a strategy. It is not only a strategy for the outside, it is actually like water. It is necessary like breath. It is necessary like land. It connects very much to some of the demands that the Black Panther Party put forth into our society that said, we will take care of our community if you do not, by any means necessary. And so they created a series of strategies, a 10-point program, a platform that says, these are the things that we need to have in our community. And that art was not separate from that. So just like when I was sitting in the park with my parents on a lawn somewhere in Detroit, Michigan, my hometown, the art situation, the art conversation, the bringing forth of creative art practice was not something that was outside of the conversation. So we didn't have to create steam because it, like air, was part of what we do each day. This is a picture of my Burning Man community. This is my camp, Que Viva. We're a social justice camp. And bring to the conversation to the playa, for those of you who have ever experienced the gloriousness of this beautiful arts festival, the opportunity to use the metaphor of the butterfly, of transformation, and to bring an intersectional lens to the conversation inside what they call home, and how it reflects the work and the need for us to stay awake, or woke, as we say, in the default world. The message, who gets to tell this message to stop killing Black people? What does that mean when we are the ones who create space for one another? We hold the conversations and we hold the container for innovation. This is an image of the space that I co-founded with 6 other brilliant people called Impact Hub Oakland. It is the place that houses the movement. We have the most diverse community come and sit together, and we want to continue to invite our partners to co-create the future of our cities. And so this conversation that we're hosting on the 27th of this month will be talking about cultural prosperity in Oakland, because if there is anything that Oakland exports is the conversation of social justice and cultural prosperity. So this morning, I have the honor of welcoming 2 of my beloved creative friends from my hometown of Detroit and my brother from Nigeria, but he lives in LA and now he tells me he's moving to the South Bay yet again. So I want to tell you a little bit about what's going to happen. I just modeled an example of what we call Pecha talk, or as we say in Oakland, Pecha Kucha. Idea, 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide. An idea that was birthed from the architecture community in Tokyo. Has anyone ever participated in a Pecha around the world? It's in cities all over the place. And so we thought, in order to continue this conversation on creative entrepreneurship, we would pull the thread on storytelling. We would continue to widen the frame and the aperture for impact investors so that you understand your role and the role of impacting art from the beginning. As you can see, we're watching the Silicon Valley and the tech companies try to fix it from the bottom because they didn't design from the beginning with diversity in mind. But we do have the opportunity to continue to make sure that art and culture and creativity are part of the framework because they are the strategy that frames and fuels the rest of the economy. So with that, I'd like you to welcome my brother Stephen Zugbo out to the stage. He is the CEO and founder of the African Technology Foundation. He is a powerhouse of a social entrepreneur, and he's really quite charming. So please put your hands together and welcome Stephen.
Okay. Okay. It's time? Okay. Good morning. Welcome to my charm, as introduced by Ashara. Absolutely glad to be here. Good morning to everybody who came in from a warmer weather to San Francisco. It's always good to dress up in August and September with a hat and a scarf. Ashara's kicked off in telling you about us owning the story, owning the narrative. I want to shed light on what we've done in connecting Africa to the rest of the world with the power of media entrepreneurship. And this is still down to the same rhetoric. It's about who's telling the story, who owns the story, who can tell the story better. From our standpoint, it's a fusion of technology and media, but it's also down to the human element, where we realized in the last couple of years that if we empowered a generation of African media entrepreneurs and we gave them the right set of tools and resources, and we educated them to a level where they became a global force in media entrepreneurship, we would seize back that narrative. Chimamanda Adichie, who many of you know as being a phenomenal author and who Beyonce knows as being a feminist, started out this conversation about the power of a single story. And it was really aimed at the stereotypical nature of looking at Africa from a foreign lens. But even more importantly, we wanted to focus on the power of that story. Who has that power? Who can tell it? And why should they tell it? But where's the spark? Where's the entrepreneurial spark that forces African media entrepreneurs to collect a set of tools, collect a set of resources, and become front and center to that story? We looked at it and we looked at Hollywood. I happen to live in LA and in Silicon Valley, and I also happen to have a small stake in a mini studio in Hollywood. So I said to my African stakeholders, I said, how about we do this? How about over the next 12 months, I commit to 100 African entrepreneurs, and I bring them over from Africa to Hollywood, 20 at a time. We train them for 3 weeks. We give each one of them all of the tools and resources they need right there in Hollywood so they can get up to global standards. We also allow them to interact with Black Hollywood, the Damon Wayans of the world, the Wayans brothers, Robert Townsend, all of the folks who really made Black Hollywood what it is and made it mainstream. But even more importantly, we allow them to co-produce content with their Hollywood stakeholders. But we do one more thing. We send them back home. And when they get back home, they become the standard bearers for what we call global content creation. And we've done this now. We're at number 68 and 69 of our 100 Entrepreneur Program over the last 13 months. We missed the mark by about 32. Thank you. But what makes this special? At this point, we have the US government and the US State Department coming in to support this on the benefits of things like women empowerment, where we have a lot of women filmmakers now coming into Hollywood and learning their craft. We have social entrepreneurs now. Whenever the Gates Foundation and all the large foundations in the room, when you're telling your stories in Africa about your wonderful programs, I don't want you to send a director from Hollywood to Africa. I don't want you to send a producer from Hollywood to Africa. I want to give you a set of trained individuals who can tell that story at a global level. And this is what we've done. But then the question came up and someone said, well, Stephen, how are you going to get those fancy smancy equipments that they used in training here back there for them to keep using? Oh, I have this other friend. He's the Department of Commerce at the U.S. State Department as well. And we went with them, and now we're opening doors for U.S. equipment manufacturers to set up leasing facilities in Africa. And we're also using all of the new online e-commerce shops that are of African descent to actually create payment methodologies for some of these folks to go by. More importantly, we've created rental facilities and facilities for used equipment. And everybody who knows Hollywood knows this. Hollywood doesn't buy equipment. There's a lot of rental facilities in LA that service most of the studios. So knowing that we could replicate this in Africa was a critical part of what we're doing. Nowadays, the women in Africa have a voice, and their voices can only be told by other women who are able to get behind the lens and tell the plight of what a woman is going through. But it's not only for the pain points. We're not just talking about the bad part. It's not about the negative isms. We want to celebrate the African women. We want to show the great stuff that they're doing. We want to be able to give them the voice that they need. And ladies and gentlemen, these women are entrepreneurs. They're building businesses, they're creating jobs, they're creating content, and they're owning the narrative as well. So over the next 2 days, please find me whenever, and let's talk about what we've done in changing that narrative for Africans, by Africans, through the empowerment that we've produced and provided for media entrepreneurs across Africa. We will continue to work with them. I hope that next year at SOCAP, we'll bring a few of them through, and they'll be covering most of the work here. Because when you own the lens, when you own the story, when you own the power, you can tell your stories better. Thank you.
So what do you think? Okay, right? I can keep your attention. You can watch, you can listen, you can take in a lot of information. So I'm really, really excited to continue our ongoing partnership with the African Technology Foundation. But one of the things that is important to all of us is the nourishment. How we eat, if we eat, what we eat, where it came from. A few years ago, I met this sister at a conference, and you know how when you meet someone and you recognize that you are family? We had this immediate sister gravitation, energy. The energy was it was amazing. And so I've had the opportunity to listen and learn from her and her commitment to the nourishment of our bodies, of the systems that we work and live within, the ecosystem that is spiritual and economic. And then she's from my hometown. So please put your hands together in welcoming Davida Davison back to the main stage this morning. And you get to hear a lot about why her particular message as the communications director at the Detroit Food Lab is so important for the work that we are doing all over the country. Welcome, Davida.
There you go.
Thank you, sis.
Yep.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. So let's just jump right into this presentation. Thank you so much for having me at SOCAP, or having me back at SOCAP this year. And so take a look at this image here. The website describes it as thus: a spicy bird with a savory burn. KFC's latest creation was inspired by one of Memphis's most famous dishes. Andre Priest Jeffries, queen mother and owner of Prince's Hot Chicken Shack, is quoted as saying, "Have mercy, Jesus. It really has come full circle, hasn't it? Since my great uncle, James Thornton Prince, was approached decades ago by Kentucky Fried Chicken, looking to buy his recipe." Ladies and gentlemen, at this starting point, I am going to use hot chicken as a springboard for us to have a conversation this morning about race, entrepreneurship, and cultural appropriation. All right, let me share with you a story. Back in the 1930s, at the height of the Great Depression, there was a man named Thornton Prince. Honey, he was a handsome man. He was beautiful. And he was also a total ladies' man. One of Thornton's women got fed up with his philandering ways. He had stayed out all night, and he had come home that morning, and he wanted breakfast. So she said, fine, I'll fix you some breakfast, all right. So she fried him some chicken. She added the spiciest items that she could find in her kitchen. No one knows what she put in that chicken. But she wanted to get back at him for staying out all night. She cooked that chicken, and she was sure that all those spices that she added, that chicken would be beyond edible. And she thought to herself as he sat down and he ate, what is he going to do when he takes that first bite? And she braced herself. Will he get mad? Will he stump off? Her plan backfired. Thornton Prince loved that chicken. Matter of fact, he took it to his brothers, and his brothers loved the chicken. Her plan did not work. She disappeared from his life, but her chicken lived on. The prince's brother turned her recipe into what they called Prince's Barbecue Chicken Shack. Now, this is a picture of the woman who runs it now. You see, when Thornton Prince died, his brother Will took over the business. And when Will died, Thornton's wife, Maud, took over the business. And by 1980, it was time for a new generation of princes to take over the restaurant. And Great Aunt Maud decided that here, this is the picture of Andre Prince Jeffries. She would take over the business, and she did. And she renamed that chicken shack Prince's Hot Chicken Shack, since it was really not about barbecue chicken in the first place. And so the restaurant is known, particularly amongst the African American community and others, as Prince's Hot Chicken Shack. Pioneered, let's be very clear, pioneered hot chicken. And it is still run by the Prince's family. Now let's fast forward to 2013. And this is what I'm going to call, what I call second wave hot chicken joints. They're opening up all over the country now. They are, 2013. This is a picture right here of Pecha's Hot House. This is in Brooklyn, New York. This is a picture of Howlin' Ray's. This is in Los Angeles. This is a picture of, I love this name, y'all, Hot Chicken Takeover in Columbus, Ohio. Here is a picture. Hot chicken then went international. Here is a picture in Melbourne, Australia, of Bell's Hot Chicken, okay? And now, this is also a picture because right in Prince's hometown is called Hattie B's Hot Chicken, and it's located in Nashville, Tennessee. But let's be very clear. Again, Prince's created hot chicken, and there's no disputing that. And this is what I want to ask a question really quick. Anybody in the audience ever had hot chicken before? A few folks in the audience, I bet y'all gonna try it now after this, right? Y'all gonna be like, I gotta try that hot chicken. So let me tell you something. When you go to Nashville, going to Prince's Hot Chicken is more than just going to eat fried chicken. It's about making a pilgrimage. It's a rite of passage. It is a badge of honor to go to Prince's. So you all know that I was too through when less than a month ago, Food Republic published this article and said, meet the man who launched the Nashville's hot chicken craze. What? Meet the man who launched hot chicken? They're giving the credit to John Lasseter for launching hot chicken? Okay, so this is the man who launched hot chicken. This is what they say. So this is my problem, right? Because the question of who gets credit for a cuisine and how they are compensated and honored is a question that comes up time and time in the food community. The article goes on to say Prince's Hot Chicken may have created hot chicken in the 1930s, but Hattie B's in Nashville has made hot chicken cool. Oh, okay. So let's have a conversation now about cultural appropriation. Specifically, how does one become the face of somebody else's culture creation? Let's talk about that. Now, let's be clear. I don't want to assert that there is anything around Hattie B's making chicken cool again. And I think where the article did not do justice is the article did not indicate how John became the face of Hattie B's and hot chicken and the business model that was created, where you tend to see white men at the forefront, particularly in the restaurant industry. First things first, location, location, location. He was able to purchase a place in a bustling neighborhood and community. The second thing, John is a culinary chef who graduated from the French Culinary Institute in New York City. He was also honored by Forbes magazine, Food and Wine magazine, as a top chef. He was also honored by Eater magazine. Now, I don't know about y'all, but not too many African Americans have the opportunity to get this type of exposure. Branding, marketing, PR. They put big bucks behind the Hattie B's brand and the team. John had the foresight or the money or the resources to hire the man who opened up Morrison's all over the South. He hired him to be a part of his team. That was important. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I do the work that I do at Food Lab Detroit. Because this is my thing. If we're going to have food used as culture creators, then black folks who created that food need to be at the center and they need to be driving it. So that is what we do at Food Lab Detroit. We support over 200 locally owned African-American low-income entrepreneurs to help them grow and scale their business. Businesses like Detroit Vegan Soul. Because if healthy food access is a problem, if diabetes is a problem, then guess what? Especially in the African-American community, don't you think it should be an African-American then entrepreneur creating a vegan place that it also solves the problem about healthy food access? I think so. This is a business also located outside of Detroit that's called Sweet Potato Sensations, again using art. This is a picture of a mural that was painted in their community. So not only do they have a business, but they're beautifying the community as well, community development. This is a picture of Good Cakes and Bakes, also owned by 2 women entrepreneurs that's located in the city of Detroit. Here's the thing. Remember what I told you about Hot Chicken Takeover? Hot Chicken Takeover just got VC investment to spur their expansion. What? All my investors in the room, you all can do this. You all are doing this. But you cannot continue to ignore those minority entrepreneurs that are in the community who have wonderful and great ideas as well. You have to find them. You have to connect with them. If you all can find Hot Chicken Takeover and invest in his business to expand, then tell me why Princess can't get money to expand her business as well. But when she was asked, Andrea Prince Jeffrey said this about this hot chicken now, second wave, plethora of restaurants all opening all over the world. She said this, my customers, they try all these different places. They're popping up, she says, but they come right back here. Might take them a while, but they come back to the real thing. They tell me all the time, you still got it. Of course, that makes me feel good, have mercy. Her only question, she insists now, is which family member is going to take over the restaurant next? Thank you.